We are the future. We are the future.
Welcome everyone to our first session of Safe Nations Forum. Unfortunately, we have to make it online, but for some reason we all know about the COVID-19 and the pandemic and all this global reset. This place of Safe Nations Forum is initiated by me and my team of Safe Nations Alliance. It's a place for people who share their concerns about global security and sustainable development of humankind during the forced transition to a new industrial order. I thank you for giving your time to this project and to the issues that plague the minds of too many people. The main purpose of conducting the Safe Nations Forum is to form a persistent community focused on a unified ideology for the development and protection of humanity. Together to form a perfect vision which would help to shape the future of tomorrow. So, for a long time, humanity has been in a race for innovation, discarding all other meaning of existence. This has led humanity to desire new innovations that provide security and liberty. How does this approach to distinguish the rich from the poor? Both attitudes to life develop a consumerist mindset. So our whole forum is about the mind reset, is the reset that we should make in our mind in order to change our lives, and as we change our lives, we can change the lives of the others. So the poor for the sake of survival, the rich in order to live in comfort and security, hoping to provide the same life for their offspring. Having a thought about the kind of thinking that global capitalization and market mindset will destroy us. Even today, when humanity is undergoing a virus attack, many are using this for profit, creating a consumer market of international proportions. I know some are doing well and helping, and the others are making a lot of money on that. It worries me that the world is not focused on regulating the speculation of humanity's freedom, but on conspiracy and a threat to health of people. Everyone is being misled, and I will say that until we know the truth, the world will continue its unrest in chaos of ignorance and lies. My friends, the world has tricked us with wrong values, but it will not last forever, and we see how the world is changing now. To save humanity, we must begin with ourselves and our values, our way of thinking, which will set the rhythm and pave the new direction of humanity's development to an intellectual level of prosperity. We must not grovel to the ideologies of leaders who are leading their people into decline and frustration. Not all of them, but some of them do that, as well as profiting from the ignorance of society and broken systems of human values. We must see a future of mutual cooperation for the benefit and prosperity of all nations globally. On this note, I'm passing a word to Gulbat Ershiladze. He is a politologist, founder of think tank Institute of Eurasia. Hello, Gulbat. Welcome to our forum and glad to see you here. Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lakshinsky. My name is Gulbat Ershiladze. I am from Tbilisi, Republic of Georgia, Black Sea region. I am sorry for my English, but I have translated my text and I can read this text. Thank you very much for the interest. The topic is globalism and national egoism after the corona psychosis. Once again, safety is the main focus of both practical politics and political science analysis. Epidemiological security, socio-economic security, and information security. The attempt global response to the epidemiological challenge has failed. Implementation of World Health Organization recommendations have not yielded the desired results in most cases. There were exceptions in the post-Soviet space countries that did not get involved in the globalist perception of the pandemic, Belarus, Turkmenistan, and which found themselves in the most advantageous position compared to others, both epidemiologically and socio-economically. This success stems from their adherence to the principle of information security. They have not been subjected to the pressure of the information wave imposing corona psychosis, a term coined by President Lukashenko of Belarus. On the other hand, those post-Soviet countries that reacted with harsh quarantine methods, almost identical everywhere, showed their Eurocentric perception of the world. While the reports of virus spread and quarantine were related to China, all post-Soviet countries reacted quite calmly, some closed air links and transfers at the border with China, without doing anything else in particular. It was only when a crisis declared in Europe, Italy and Spain, that the post-Soviet states also adopted quarantine and other emergency measures. This occurred in parallel with WHO's declaration of a pandemic on 11 March 2020, again after the outbreak of the epidemic crisis in Europe. It is quite possible that without the Western media's December 2019, January 2020 information attack on China, the coronavirus would have passed quite unnoticed. There would have been to panic and no global economic shutdown. To avoid being accused of hiding the extent of the epidemic, China imposed a state of emergency in one of its provinces considered to be a hotbed of the new coronavirus. In doing so, the authorities prevented an even greater panic among the population, which could have spread throughout the country and brought it to a collapse. It is a mystery how the severe quarantine imposed in Wuhan in late January could have saved the rest of China from the epidemic, but not Italy and other overseas countries. The main source of panic appeared to be the WHO, cited by all the mainstream media. It appears that this, until now, a minor global body has gained enormous political influence. At the same time, it is unclear how some minor medical officials at the head of this organization can be trusted. This is what creates information and other security problems for sovereign states. US President Trump has accused WHO of being subservient to China, as has China itself of deliberately covering up the dangers of the coronavirus. One could, of course, assume that this is just a product of Trump's general policy logic, personal ambitions and assessments that everyone is used to. One could also say that Trump and the US have felt they are not leaders in the WHO and have behaved the way they do when they do without having the upper hand. They simply brush off and shut out international and or global bodies like the UN General Assembly, UNESCO, the International Criminal Court, etc. But despite these American peculiarities, which sometimes force the mastermind of globalization to go against the logic of globalization itself, it cannot theoretically be denied that statements and recommendations of the WHO can be influenced by other actors. This, given the exclusivity of the WHO's global health position, carries a danger for nation states. Brazilian President Bolsonaro has explained this situation in his own way. He has followed the US and left the WHO, stating that Brazil does not want to receive instructions from the outside when it comes to such an important area of life as health. Interestingly, the head of the WHO's regional European office, Kluge, has already managed to state in an interview that a second wave of coronavirus is sure to await the world. How could Kluge have known this? Why has he created an atmosphere of instability in the world with the speculative forecasts? Maybe there is nothing but an opinion of an official, but it is already important in the context of information security of states and international relations as a whole. The fact of the globalization turned against itself. When national states closed their borders and possessed strategic raw materials, primarily wheat, vegetable oil, and other agricultural products of the post-Soviet countries, Russia, Kazakhstan, and Ukraine, prohibited export of these raw materials for a wall testifies to it. Even more striking is the clear lack of solidarity and willingness to help, even within the EU, when the Euro bureaucracy, but also individual national member states of the EU, left Italy to its fate. But still, they have all taken these decisions, which mean a return, albeit temporary, to a policy of national egoism under the dictate of a global information agenda, all of them hostage to the global information community. How will events unfold? Poor countries like Georgia, represented by their leaders, have already stated that they cannot do without international aid. By the way, Back in spring 2020, Russian President Putin initiated the creation of a special fund in the IMF and other international financial institutions to help the needy countries in the post-corona period. After the decline of the corona psychosis, there is no doubt that the totalitarianism of the state, turning the gaze of the nations and states towards the fundamental material values, agriculture, own production, in short, towards the maximum economic self-sufficiency for the sake of a stable security in everything. But how feasible is this in a global information space? Professor Ould Mohamedou, a professor of the Geneva Institute of International and Development Affairs, in his remarkable article, Geopolitics After the Coronavirus, suggests that the coronavirus crisis is very likely to generate a wave of counter-globalization. Such a wave will come not from anti-globalization activists already active for a long time, but from new joint moments of interconnectedness limitations. This was the cited. But even such a wave of counter-globalization will so far come from within the globalized world, within the global agenda. Nevertheless, sovereign states should strive to be as self-sufficient as possible in all things, while at the same time not getting hung up on national egoism and assisting the rest of the world as much as possible for the sake of their own stability. Thank you very much, and I am sorry, excuse me for this bad reading.
Thank you very much, Gilbert. That's an interesting point, and I see your concern. Gilbert had made a point about the coronavirus and how everything got messed up in the world. I will go now a little bit from the politics and the sociology into the humankind, who we are and who we should be.
We are the future.
So during the evolution and development of sciences related to human studies, we have managed to study the physical shell, its internal soft tissues and psychosomatic interrelation affecting the state of life and health of human being. Furthermore, in my opinion, science has stopped in its studies of human being and turned to delve more into the molecular world, the interaction of cells and atoms. However, this knowledge exists in the material perception and understanding of things relating to all existing matter and bodies. Apparently, because modern science always relies on proving things through the sensory perception in the collective prism of the world order, mostly in its visual perception, we are already gradually realizing that there is non-manifested world that has great power over people, and the world itself, like the invisible part of an iceberg. The top one we see, the bottom is bigger, and we don't see how big it is. Laws that cannot be explained by modern scientists, they do not tell us that there's something cannot be with us, which can be really untrue. And yet they exist, and we feel them, though we cannot explain them in limited scientific language. There are many things which we cannot explain Verbally, we cannot explain our feelings to the extent how we really feel inside. We must understand that we are not our mind, which is only engaged in computational processes in space and time. We are more than mind. We are intelligent. We are capable of dreaming, inspiring, and being inspired by others. While chaos is a creativity, because everything is being born out from chaos, and structure and consistency are the laws, something what everything must eventually come to. By studying the laws by which man lives, we begin to understand the meaning of our existence and our place in this world. An entirely different perception will open for us. We will put human as a key link in all intelligent earthly life. The use of various technologies, including artificial intelligence, as an assistive tool to facilitate routine human tasks and accelerate the emergence of sufficiently complex assessment methods. Such approach will help to develop the new human species with new possibilities and abilities. But to implement such a future, all of humanity must unite on the universal basis of core values. If we leave everything as it is, we will be extinct like dinosaurs in few generations, and robots will take it over. Ladies and gentlemen, it is about the focus. We keep our focus on technological breakthroughs and the stages of human development dependent on technology, where man is only a mediator. It is necessary to change the focus, which would show the correct pyramid and not invert it. Once we begin to realign our focus on human cognition and the connection of all humanity, as well as the areas affecting evolution, not only the physical, but also the psychosomatic, metaphysical, and others which are not currently accessible. Only then we will begin to ask the right questions, pay attention to legislation, pay attention to the others, our neighbors, and develop as species which must be reconsidered. The world can no longer evolve towards consumption by developing a market economy, which will always have side effects leading to evolutionary digression. Resources are limited, consumption is also limited. Take exactly as much as you need, and that's it. There shouldn't be more. If the focus of consumption and narcissism will be placed last in the evolutionary chain, development of intellect, science, education, and the interaction of the international community would grow strong force of society. And you all know about that. And again, we would see inspiring minds and talents like we saw in the Soviet Union. I was born in the Soviet Union, and I know the values we had, and the world we had extremely changed to the world we have now here in Russia, with the new government, with the new norms, with the new moral issues and other. The market economy will be gone in the obtrusive form how it is present today. It will be replaced by an economy of human resources, capabilities, and knowledge. In early times, the market economy was a tool for the accumulation of financial resources through the development of consumer markets. The world economy today, in much of its speculation and media manipulations, has become obsessive. It is operating by deception and deliberately false information. And I'm sure you all agree with me on that. Such actions became norms in the corporate sector, as everyone is busy while building up companies' capital to get ahead of competition. And as well as this, they're creating global cults of brands, which they are telling people to follow. And we know all that now, the cult of following, yes, that we are feeling good when there are a lot of followers following us and liking and commenting and all that, which is good, but there is again a speculation on that and the use not in for good. Safe Nations calls on everyone to join the alliance so that together we can create a sustainable future and open new horizons for the evolutionary development of humanity, for the prosperity of global society and our planet. Safe Nations Alliance proposed to discuss new alternative model of international society for the preservation of human values, principles, morals, cultural heritage, which should be kept and secured for new generations, our children, building up integrity as the only biological, intellectual, and spiritual species of our planet, having full rights to natural resources, life forms in the biological chain, where human beings are integral part and the crown of the divine evolutionary process. We see how the old world is failing to transform itself into new existence. With the internet, the world has broken the boundaries for future technological evolution. However, the speed of technological process is destroying the ecosystems of our planet. Such forces entered into our lives, replaced organic with artificial or artificially synthesized methods, capturing it as natural events. We have every right to defend intervention of the organic processes. If these activities damage natural human evolution, harmonic development of our future and our children in favor of the fourth industrial revolution, we should react immediately. The instrumentalities that have been established since World War II to ensure human security and freedom require revision and at least adjustment in accordance with the modern times of life and the development of human intelligence and the latest discoveries in all scientific fields. We need to know, who do we trust? Who is responsible for harm and cataclysms, terrorism? Who is telling the truth and who is lying? Why do they make decisions for us and why we do not defend ourselves? Who holds the power? People have many questions, but who can or will give clear answers? One thing I'm certain of is development of digital jurisdictions. Due to global digitalization, in near future, the borders of countries will be blurred and replaced by digital ones. That's the plan, in which AI will play a major role of security. This means that the basic function of establishment that protects its territorial interests will disappear and replaced by digital borders. Isn't this a good plan? For some people, yes, no borders, you can travel anywhere you like, no visas, and you can feel yourself free. But that's the trick, isn't it? So far, it seems fantastic to us, but it is not. Such a future awaits us, and knowing what awaits us, we have the right to correct the direction of such plans. So I'm sorry, maybe it's not very positive things which I'm addressing to you all, but there is certain way of thinking which the whole world is living now. Live now, and we need to change ourselves first, not to change our neighbors. We need to focus on ourselves, develop ourselves, and then help and pass the knowledge to the others, just like the kids. I'm the proud father of 3 children, and I look at my children and I see how they copy everything I do, everything my wife does, and everything copying from each other. So this is my word, and I would like to welcome Dr. Kato Samuel Namuena. He will make a speech on biodiversity and environment.
Okay, so I will just go straight away and start. I will be talking about biodiversity in the environment. Now, I will be covering the following 2 topics: drivers of biodiversity loss, as well as mitigating biodiversity loss using ICT. For the drivers of biodiversity loss, we have poaching and the international trade of wildlife, and we also have illegal logging. Poaching is truly a problem today, and it is leading to most animals going towards extinction. In Africa, we have the forest elephants, we have the pangolins, which are animals going towards extinction. The gorillas also are included, the drills. Part of this is because of the international trade of wildlife, because the demand for the elephant tusk worldwide is increasing, and therefore people are tempted to poach these animals for their tusks and then export them. So it is very important to ensure that we cut this thread, which is linking those who want these tusks internationally with those who poach these animals. However, within the country too, within Africa, we have our own problems of finance and corruption, which is mostly driving the illegal trade of animals internationally, because officials here, both those who are involved in the forestry sector, rangers, policymakers, are being corrupted by these international traders. Hence, enforcing law that entails punishing those who are involved will be difficult, because those who are supposed to enforce these laws are corrupt. Thus, it is the duty of all of us on earth to take it as our own lifelong duty to ensure that we do everything to fight against the international trade of these animals. Because if we don't, with time, all these animals will go extinct, like the smoothback turtle and others, which are already extinct animals. So it is our role, we should ensure that we discourage anyone we can talk to from buying these animals and tell them what are the domino effects. For example, some of these animals are major dispersers of some plants in the forest. Therefore, eliminating them will affect the growth and development of these plants too. There is a favorite example I always talk about: the relationship between the elephant and the Moabi tree here. where the Moabi tree, the seeds break their dormancy in the elephant's gut. Then you find most in the forest, you find the Moabi germinate in the elephant poo in the forest. Therefore, if you eliminate the elephant, it will have domino effect on the Moabi because you must have eliminated its main seed disperser. So eliminating animals will have effects on some plants, of which some of them are plants that create shade in the forest for shade-tolerant species to grow and develop. Illegal logging too is another problem with respect to biodiversity loss, because many countries abroad depend on wood from Africa to build houses, to have furniture, etc., because the wood are very strong, they have very strong tensile strength, and they are resistant. Some of them are even poisonous to insects, which damage wood. For example, in the Scandinavian countries, they need wood that will not be easily permeable by water, which water cannot easily damage, for them to build their homes above water, because we know some parts of the Scandinavia is below sea level. So the people, they have resorted to building houses that float. Hence, they need wood that will not easily get rotting. So the demand of a particular species in Cameroon called azobe has increased, and is mostly imported by the Europeans. The Chinese too have come in and they are taking the plant. Locally, we call it ironwood because it's only the sawmills that can split it. It is very dense and therefore can be used for such constructions. This is also driving companies which are responsible for logging. We call them here the concession holders, to log even below the set diameters of these trees. For example, if they say the least to cut is 40, some of these loggers will cut even 30 as demands increase. So they will drive the next, they will cause the next harvest of this tree species by the next timber concessionaire to have a reduction in this species, because if they follow the actual set quotas of cutting at least 40, then the future, after 30 years, the species which had 39 diameter size and below must have been ready for logging by another concession holder, and this will continue with time, and therefore maintenance of the particular species in the forest. This is just one example, as there are many others. Therefore, how can we mitigate this situation? We can use ICT to mitigate poaching as well as illegal logging. In the poaching sector, we can train hunters to follow animals in the forest instead of killing them, and take pictures and video footage and sell them online in YouTube, Instagram, and other channels. If we do that and they make a lot of money, they will instead protect these animals than killing them. For example, YouTube pays between $3 and $5 per 1,000 views of video, which as it increases, the amount increases. And Instagram pays $88 and above per post, which will increase and with respect to the number of subscribers these people have. And if you have good content, you will always have people who want to use the content. So if we train these people to use these tools, they will become conservators themselves and stop killing the animals, as they will protect them, since they make a lot of money from it. ICT can be used to mitigate illegal logging by developing traceability software. Most countries and conglomerates have developed systems to push out timber from illegal sources from their systems. For example, in Europe, there is the Forest Law Enforcement, Governance and Trade, which wants to ensure that it's only timber from green sources, from legal sources, which are sold in Europe. Therefore, they are encouraging development of traceability software systems, which will trace timber from where it was kept to the final destination. Hence, they know that it came from a green source before they can buy it. And FSC, FSC certifications and other certifications are there also to ensure that the appropriate equipment is used in the forest during logging operations, such that they don't cause more domino damage to the forest while logging operations are being carried out. Therefore, we have seen how we can actually mitigate poaching as well as illegal logging using ICT tools. When all these are put together, at least we can say we can control biodiversity loss. We know we cannot totally stop it, but mitigating it with time will at least lead to increase in biodiversity. Thank you so much for your kind attention.
Thank you so much, Samuel. Namoene. Thank you so much.
Over to you, Ivan.
Thank you so much for your talk. Going on to the next speaker is David Purkswanidze. He's a member of Safe Nations Alliance, and he's a good friend of mine. He will talk on global security.
First of all, I greet Mr. Lakshinsky and also welcome the forum participants. My name is David Purtsvanidze. Sorry for my poor quality English. Therefore, first I will address you in my native Georgian language and then in Russian with the help of an interpreter.
Thank you, David. And it's my pleasure to have you here.
May I start?
Yes. Yes, you can start.
ქალბატონებო და ბატონებო, პაცუმლო კოლეგებო, მოგესალმებით ჩვენი უნიკალური ღონისძიების Safe Nations ფორუმის გახსნაზე. ნება-მომეცით წარმოგიდგინოთ დავით. მე გახლავართ დავით ფურცხვანიძე და წარმოადგენ ამ სუპერ პროექტის ერთ-ერთ ხელმძღვანელს გლობალური უსაფრთხოებისა და საინფორმაციო ტექნოლოგიების ნაწილში. სამთავრობო ორგანიზაცია, ევროპული არასამთავრობო ორგანიზაცია ESL Georgia's სახელით გესაუბრებით, რომელიც მოღვაწეობს მთელ მსოფლიოში და ძირითადი მიმართულებები მისი მოღვაწეობისა განხორციელებულია პროექტებში ჰუმანიტარული უსაფრთხოებისა და საინფორმაციო ტექნოლოგიების სფეროში. ჩვენი კომპანია ახორციელებს მრავალ პროექტს, რომელთა შორის ერთ-ერთი უმთავრესია უსაფრთხო კავკასია. ეს პროექტები მუშავდებოდა ხორციელება რეგიონალური და გლობალური უსაფრთხოების სფეროებში. ჩვენ ასევე უწევთ კონსულტაციებს რიგ პროექტებს, ფართო სპექტრ პროექტებისა საზოგადოებრივი სახელმწიფო და სოციალური ურთიერთობების დარგში. ასევე მჭიდრო საქმიანი ურთიერთობები გვაქვს ნაციონალურ და პოლიტიკურ საზოგადოებრივ ჯგუფებთან ამერიკის შეერთებულ შტატებში, ევროპისა და ასევე აზიის მრავალ ქვეყანაში. თუ ჩვენ გავიხსენებთ ფიზიკის კანონების საფუძველს, რომელთა საფუძველში დევს ნიუტონის დუალისტური მოდელი, ერთ-ერთი პოსტულატი ამბობს, რომ ნებისმიერი ქმედება ყოველთვის მოყვება უკუქმედება. ეს ჩვენი ძირითადი პრინციპია, იმიტომ რომ ჩვენ არ მუშაობთ სტანდარტული ძალისმიერი მეთოდებით. ჩვენ მუშაობთ უსაფრთხოების პრობლემების გადაწყვეტის ინტელექტუალური და გონისმიერი გზების ძიებაში. გამომდინარე ჩვენი გამოცდილებიდან უკვე რეალიზებული პროექტებისა, ჩვენ გეგმავთ ახალ მეგაპროექტს უსაფრთხო ახლო აღმოსავლეთი, რომლის დომინანტი ნაწილი იქნება მიწვრილი ავღანეთის პრობლემატიკაზე და ეს სახელწოდებით პროექტი მშვიდობიანი ავღანეთის სულ მალე იქნება წარმოდგენილი და მისი პრეზენტაციაც მოხდება უახლოეს მომავალში. ვიწვევთ ჩვენს კოლეგებს ამ პროექტების განხილვაზე და გთავაზობთ იგივე უფრო გაფართოებული ფორმატით ყველაფერი ეს მინდა მოგითხროთ უკვე რუსულ ენაზე. Дамы и господа, уважаемые коллеги, приветствую на открытии уникального мероприятия форума Safe Nations.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, welcome to the opening of a unique event, the Safe Nations Forum.
Я, Давид Пурцхванидзе, имею честь представлять данный суперпроект по части глобальной безопасности и информационных технологий от лица компании ESL Georgia, европейской неправительственной организации, зарегистрированной в Грузии и осуществляющей свою деятельность по всему миру. Основной фокус организации – гуманитарные проекты, проекты в области безопасности и информационных технологий.
I have the honor to represent this super project on global security and information technology on behalf of ESL Georgia, a European NGO registered in Georgia and operating globally. The main focus of the organization is humanitarian projects, projects in the field of security and information technology.
ESL Georgia поддерживает большинство проектов, таких как «Безопасный Кавказ», посвященных комплексной работе по вопросам региональной и глобальной безопасности. Мы также консультируем и предлагаем любую поддержку в области общественных, государственных и социальных отношений. У нас прочные связи с национальными политическими сообществами в США, также в странах Европы и Азии.
ESL Georgia supports most of the projects such as Safe Caucasus, dedicated to integrated work on regional and global security issues. We also advise and offer any support in the field of public, government and social relations. We have strong ties with national and political communities in the United States, Europe and Asia.
В основе законов физики лежит суть дуального мироустройства, которая была изложена Ньютоном, что на любое действие всегда есть равное и противоположное противодействие. К чему это я? К тому, что мы не занимаемся вопросами безопасности силового характера, который, на наш взгляд, изжил свое, и как раз для этого мы предлагаем менять сознание. Форум Mindset Revolution призывает объединиться людям, мысли которых действия смогут вдохновить умы, застрявшие в прошлом, и повлиять на принятие решений в сторону мирного разрешения возникших конфликтов. Мы не можем продолжать действовать так же, как действовали раньше силой. Старое мышление разрушительно, его нужно оставить в прошлом.
The laws of physics are based on the essence of the dual world order, which was set forth by Newton, that any action always has an equal and opposite reaction. Why I'm doing this? To the fact that we are not dealing with security issues of forceful nature, which in our opinion has outlived our usefulness, and for this we propose to change consciousness. The Mindset Revolution Forum encourages people to unite those thoughts whose thoughts and actions can inspire minds stuck in the past, influence decision making towards the peaceful resolution of conflicts that have arisen. We cannot continue to act in the same way as we did before. By force. The old thinking is destructive and must be left in the past.
Исходя из опыта уже реализованных, а также находящихся в разработке проектов регионального значения, мы планируем начать разработку мегапроекта «Безопасный Ближний Восток», доминирующей частью которого является проблематика Афганистана и стереотипное мышление всего мира об этом чудесном регионе. В самое ближайшее время мы презентуем доклад проекта «Мирный Афганистан», в котором изложим видение разумного разрешения конфликтного региона. Приглашаем наших коллег также поделиться своим опытом и видением решений, которые, на ваш взгляд, могут помочь разрешить конфликт на Ближнем Востоке и не дать ему распространиться дальше.
Based on the experience of projects of regional significance that have already been implemented, as well as those in development, we plan to start developing the Safe Middle East mega project, the dominant part of which is the problems of Afghanistan and the stereotypical thinking of the whole world about this wonderful region. In the very near future, we will present the report of the Peaceful Afghanistan project in which we will set out a vision of a reasonable solution to the conflict region. We invite our colleagues to also share their experience and visions of solutions that, in our opinion, can help resolve the conflict in the Middle East and prevent it from spreading further.
Желаю всем плодотворного сотрудничества и удачи в этом нелегком деле.
I wish you all fruitful cooperation and good luck in this difficult initiative to make the world a better place.
Thank you all and wish you successful work.
Thank you, David. Thank you, David. Have a nice day, and we will talk further on
Thank you.
what we've just discussed. Thank you. Give a warm welcome to Kobe Moses Namuena. Hello.
Good day to everyone.
Hello.
Hello,
Welcome.
Ivan.
Hello.
Thank you very much, Ivan.
Moses. Okay.
How are you?
I'm fine. I'm just will upload the notes. Yes.
Okay, good day, everyone, and thank you, Ivan, for inviting me to take part in this great endeavor. It is good when people of great minds meet globally to discuss issues that affect the world. So without much ado, I am Kombe Moses Namwene. I am a human rights activist, advocate, but I am an occupational safety, health, and risk management specialist. Next, Ivan. So we are going to discuss what human rights is, and then we'll have an introduction to this presentation, the different kinds of human rights, international human rights law, Council on Human Rights, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and then we're going to have humanitarian programs where those of us, all of us in this forum can come in, and I will share some photos of some humanitarian assistance that has been done in various areas of the world, and we're going to conclude. So, human rights are basic rights and freedoms that belong to every person in the world from birth until you die. They apply to everyone regardless of where you are from, what you believe in, or how you choose to live your life. They can never be taken away, although they can sometimes be restricted. For example, if a person breaks the law or in the interests of national security. These basic rights are based on shared values like dignity, fairness, equality, respect, and independence. These values are defined and protected by the law. The above was all defined in the World Conference on Human Rights held in 1993 in Vienna. Now, although the origin of human rights is ancient, the international concern with human rights has made it recent. The UN Charter marks the advent of systematic human rights protection within the international system. The idea of human rights is as old as humanity. Its systematic proclamation and declaration are more recent. The world's first Bill of Human Rights was discovered on a clay tablet dating back from the reign of Cyrus the Great, that is 555 to 529 BC, that is before Christ, I think. The document which formed the historical foundation of modern human rights jurisprudence are the English Bill of Rights, which was promulgated in 1688, the American Declaration of Independence in 1776, and the French Declaration of Rights of Man in 1879. The legal process in the universality of human rights effectively commenced with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. Now, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and other documents lay out 5 kinds of human rights. You have the economic, the social, cultural, civil, and political. The economic, social, and cultural rights include the right to work, the right to food and water, the right to housing, and the right to education. Documents like the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, which was established in 1976, protect these rights. Conventions like the Convention on the Rights of the Child safeguard the economic, social, and cultural rights of specific groups. As with all types of human rights, the state's responsibility is to protect, promote, and implement economic, social, and cultural rights. So as we can see, it is the responsibility of each state to protect the rights of its citizens. Specific examples in this category of rights, which is economic, social, are the right to work in a safe environment for a fair wage, the right to access medical care, including mental health care, the right to accessible education, the right to adequate food, clothing, and housing, the right to affordable sanitation and clean water, the right to take part in cultural life, the right to enjoy the benefits of scientific progress, the right to social security. These are all promulgated in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. But are these rights respected? This is where we are supposed to come in, because majority of individuals in various parts of the world, mostly in Africa, these rights are not respected. So the poor suffer while the rich benefit. And majority of the world's population don't even know what their rights are. So this is where we come in, because we need to go to the nooks and corners of the globe to sensitize every human being so that they should know what their rights are. Civil and political rights include articles from the first part of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. They state that people must be allowed to participate freely in civil and political life without facing repression or discrimination. This is not respected at all, because back in Africa, mostly in the country where I come from, you cannot, just because you say you have the right to speak, you speak carelessly, you may lose your life. While economic, social, and cultural rights are framed as rights a person is entitled to, most civil and political rights are about protection from certain things like torture and slavery. Documents like the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and its two optional protocols outline rights such as the right to life, which is violated by actions like death by torture, neglect, and use of force. The right to freedom of expression, which is violated by restricting access to ideas and limiting press freedom. The right to privacy, which is violated by intruding on a person's sexual life or personal data. The right to asylum, which is violated by deporting someone to a country where their lives are at risk. This particular question, we have just talked about Afghanistan. The Afghans suffer this everywhere in the world. They are deported, even though we all know. I work and live in Afghanistan. I work with the United Nations Assistance Mission in Afghanistan. I know what these people are going through. The right to a fair trial and due process, which is violated by a court that's not impartial and excessive delays. The right to freedom of religion, which is violated when someone is punished for following their beliefs or forced to adopt another religion. In Afghanistan, Christians are being killed because they all want, the Taliban want all Christians, all Afghans to be Muslims. Their rights are not respected. The right to freedom for discrimination, which is violated when traits like race, gender, religion, etc., are used as justification for actions like being fired from a job. So we have a big part to play, making sure these rights, what is written.
Sorry for interrupt you. So you are saying that in Afghanistan, they're using religion, Islam, in a political way.
Correct. Everyone knows that. Those of us who are Christians, we are fortunate that we live in camps. So in those camps, we don't have Afghans. We can actually attend service. Others go to the Italian embassy to attend Catholic church service. Those are international compounds. But Afghans are not allowed to freely practice Christian religion. They call it haram. So international human rights law. International human rights law has been developing extensively since the creation of the United Nations. The most fundamental point about human rights law is that it establishes a set of rules for all the people of all the states. Human rights is international in the sense of it being universal, applying to all individuals. However, International human rights laws refers mainly to the obligation of states to individuals within their jurisdiction. When states fail to assure realization of human rights to individuals within their jurisdiction, international obligation arises. Thus, obligation to provide human rights for individuals is mainly international and in some cases international. But this is not practiced to the latter, because we see how people are being tortured in nations because they stand against the way things are done in their nation. But the international community does not come in, because the United Nations Charter also says that they cannot just jump into a country and impose a mission, except the government of that country invites them. So if the government is the one pushing and killing those who are castigating the way they are doing things, how would they invite an international body to come and instill good governance? It's not possible. So some of these rights that have been laid down in the international human rights law, they are not being practiced as per what is written. Thus, a state is not free to treat its national as it pleases, even though it is sovereign. This is also something that we need to look at. The greatest impact of human rights law has been to erode the absolute control which a state had in the classical period. This period was between 1730 to 1820.
Mm-hmm.
The efforts for the creation of an international organization in order to establish peace were being made even when World War II was in progress. Many declarations adopted by the conference laid down the importance of human rights. The Declaration of the United Nations, signed on January 1st, 1942 at Washington, was the first document which used the term human rights. Thus, human rights became a matter of international concern after this period. Since then, international human rights law has been developing in an unprecedented manner and has become a very substantive part of international law. Although there is no global government to protect human rights, it is being protected by the various bodies of the United Nations and the intergovernmental organizations. The Human Rights Council is an intergovernmental body within the United Nations system responsible for strengthening the promotion and protection of human rights around the globe and for addressing situations of human rights violations and make recommendations on them. It can discuss all thematic human rights issues and situations that require its attention throughout the year. It meets at the UN office at Geneva. The Council is made up of 47 United Nations member states, which are elected by the UN General Assembly. The Human Rights Council replaced the former United Nations Commission on Human Rights. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The idea for the protection of human rights and fundamental freedom was conceived in the Atlantic Charter 1941 and in the Declaration of the United Nations in 1942. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights was adopted in 1948 with an aim to enumerate human rights for all the people. This has inspired a rich body of legally binding international human rights treaties. The preamble of the Universal Declaration proclaims the declaration as a common standard of achievement of all people and all nations. It contains 30 articles. It enumerates the basic principles of human rights in the most comprehensive manner. But like I say, it only ends there amongst the rich. Those people in the nooks and corners, all the interior, they don't know what the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is all about. So we have a very big part to play. Next slide.
So it's
please,
about the education. So
yeah. Now, across the world, people come together in organized groups to help provide for those in need of assistance. This is where we are coming in, such as those in war-torn regions or areas that have been devastated by catastrophic weather events. Many international charity organizations participate in ongoing large-scale humanitarian aid. Those smaller organizations also often get involved. Examples of such humanitarian programs are focusing on combating poverty, disease, and inequality around the world. A lot of their work is focused on taking steps to ensure that people in impoverished, underdeveloped areas have access to the clean drinking water they need to survive. Assisting children in need in areas of the world where there is not enough money for proper nutrition, medicine, and other basic needs. We can become part of these. Go ahead. Next, Ivan. We can also reach out to people in impoverished parts of the world, providing direct aid and support. We can go to struggling areas to bring help and aid in many forms. Not everyone in the world has healthcare. In Africa as a whole, healthcare is a problem. Our presidents, when they fall sick, they go to Europe and America to get treated. They don't think that they can develop their nations and provide these amenities for us to also benefit from. We can commit to doing good in different communities. So many people in the world are living at or below the poverty line or face injustice daily. We can come in to advocate for such. Next slide. As we can see, these are photos of some humanitarian aid around the globe. We see people who have devoted their time to aid those who are in need. Ivan, thank you so much for this. Presently, there is a widespread acceptance of the importance of human rights in the international structure. However, one will not hesitate to admit that there is a confusion prevailing as to its precise nature and scope and the mode of international law as to the protection of these rights. One valuable lesson that the history of human rights teaches us is that they are not static, but are developed in response to new modes of political thought and changes in the international environment. Maybe our voices may be heard so that everyone can actually benefit from this human rights proclamation that has been said every day here and there. Those who really need this protection don't even know what their rights are. We can be a part of the ongoing global humanitarian assistance if we commit ourselves. Let's be a part to change that benefits the universe. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your contribution to this idea of making this forum, and thank you for your speech. If you have time, we will speak more on legislative frameworks, and I think what you've mentioned already about the human rights is very, very important to be reconsidered.
We are the future.
Good time of the day, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dr. Wakas, and I would be talking about the transition in global value chains. So first of all, I would like to thank to Ivan for invitation for the Save Nation Forum. So there are a lot of transitions that we see in the global economy for number of years. If we talk about, for example, global value chain, so global value chain has upgraded somehow. We have a lot of involvement of big data. There are some regional trends that we have to follow, and we are dealing with the effects of trade wars that we have between China and Russia. So under the circumstances, there is a need of change in paradigm of how we look at the things. Now, a small event like a blockage in Suez Canal has affected the value chain all over the world because we could not find the raw material, and we have to think about, should we rely on one country over the period of time, or we have to look for some alternatives. So this also demands new dynamics to look at the things. For example, in terms of investment, in terms of managing our existing portfolio, we have to also think about aligning our national policies to the different global initiatives and the changing environmental concerns that we are having over the last 2 decades. So countries like the developing countries like Pakistan, India, and Uzbekistan, if we talk about that, we are facing the water stress right now. So we have to align our economic development in a way that we could cope up with these emerging demands coming from these natural disasters that we are facing right now. We also have to maintain our food security in a sense that we grow those things that can meet our regional demand. We have a huge domestic demand of goods, especially agriculture products. We can't afford to import it from other countries. We also have to think about whether we should be fall into the debt trap offered by certain countries. We have to develop our infrastructure in a sustainable way because we cannot afford to go for those technologies that have been abandoned by other countries. Can we produce electricity from coal, or we should adopt the sustainable future of solar and alternative fuels? So this is a big question that is ahead of us. We also have to look for now what are the new ways of revenues? Can we still exist using the medieval technology that we have for our agriculture, for our industry, for our trade and services? Or we have to look into the knowledge economy. How can we optimally utilize our human resources in some meaningful way? So the challenges are diverse. The challenges are somewhat that needs the like-minded people, the think tanks, the evangelists, the people who concern about the future of the human. They have to sit together and they have to have a dialogue, and that dialogue could suggest us some solutions. So I like this initiative. Unfortunately, due to some of my commitments, I was unable to talk to you in live. So I'm recording this video and I hope to stay in touch with you in the future. Thank you very much for your time. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for Dr. Wakas for his speech.
Hi. We don't need to develop ourselves in the world of broken lives, broken windows, street protests, and burning nations from the inside out. All these things are just a reflection of broken generation and helpless environment. We see, we know, and we speak about that. That means we can make changes together, fix these issues, protect our environment, and give the right support to our next generations.
We are the future.